Okay, hi, I'm gonna make this video and you're probably not gonna watch it either ever or until many years from now, but I do just want to make this video now. So I think today's the 9th of June 2020 and I burnt my nose like 2 days ago from drinking tea, so you'll have to ignore that. Anyway, this video is not about any of that, and I was gonna film this after I filmed my June jubilation video, but I just need to get it out. I made a video about 2 years ago, oh boy, I'm gonna cry, about moving house, and that's how we ended up in this house. And don't get me wrong, I love this house and I have no regrets about moving out of the other one. And one of the things I said in that video, which I cut out because I thought it was a little bit unfair, so I mentioned that my grandmother sold her house and moved, and then I mentioned that we sold our house in Holland, which was really hard for me. And what I then said in the video, which I cut out, was that I didn't know if I would be able to cope with my other grandparents selling their house. And I guess based on this, you can see that I'm not coping. I feel like I shouldn't be this upset because I know that the reason they're moving is because they didn't expect to last this long, which is, I mean, how fortunate am I that my grandparents have lived past the age they were expecting to. The tissues have come out. And this has been in the talks for about a year now, maybe more. Actually, definitely more, because it was before I left they were even talking about it. So I think I heard them speaking about it December 2018, but it was still like very much up in the air, not anything concrete or anything. And then a couple of months ago, when I was living in England, which I technically still am, although technically I'm here right now, I don't know. I called my parents, as I did, and my brother very kindly said, you know, they're thinking of moving and they're thinking of leaving Holland altogether, which they're not. And I tried to not cry because I knew if I cried it would bring him so much joy because he's my brother, fair enough, but I didn't want to give him that. But as soon as he walked away, I just broke down. I think it's safe to say that that was the worst I'd felt since I'd left home. Since then I've had worse moments, which is maybe not something to be proud of, but that was really so hard. And ever since then it's been on my mind, but luckily I was able to sort of ignore it because I didn't hear about it much. Because I was in England and my parents didn't bring it up, which was good of them, I didn't want them to. But then around the time that I got here, I think my grandparents had already found a flat. They hadn't like bought it yet or anything, or rented it, I don't know what they're doing, but they definitely had their eyes on it and it was much more concrete. And then maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, they got the house keys. And that was really bad because I was in an online singing lesson. No, I was about to start my online singing lesson and I got a message with a picture of the keys from my father saying, they got the house keys. And so I had to try and sing, trying not to cry and trying to avoid the lump in my throat and just telling myself, get through this singing lesson and then you're allowed to cry. But the problem is I've been trying really hard not to cry, especially in front of my father, because I don't want him to see how upset I am about this. Not because I'm embarrassed, but because I don't want him to be upset about it. Because he's dealing with it surprisingly well and I don't want to jeopardize that. And they've been talking about how sometime in the next week or so, I think, they're getting a real estate agent to take pictures of their house, which just makes it really hard for me. And then also the other day, my father was mentioning how they're getting rid of lots of stuff, and of course no one can help them at the moment because as of right now, we are still in lockdown, and so no one can come visit them, no one can come help them. And that was another thing I found really hard, or I am finding really hard, is that in my head, I knew if they were going to move, at least I would have a chance. I would very likely have a chance to travel from England to Holland before they sold the house. And then coronavirus happened, and now it breaks my heart to think I won't be able to see their house again. And obviously it'll be so good for them if they can have a quick sell with it and everything. But it's a really heartbreaking thought for me. And then the other day I did, for my Broadway song challenge, I think it's in part 3, I did How to Return Home. And I already always found that song really emotional for me. I don't know, I don't necessarily relate to it, but in a different way I do. And like, it practically makes me cry anyway. And then with all this going on, maybe I'll try and put in a clip of the original me singing. I managed to find a bit for the Broadway challenge thing that doesn't have me breaking down, but I was not having a good time with it. Take a silent breath. And so I spoke to my mum just about all this in general. Because on top of all that, all the Black Lives Matter things are happening now, and it's like my anxiety is just through the roof because of everything I'm seeing on social media, plus being in lockdown, plus not knowing when I get to go back, plus this. It's just everything. So I played the song for her, and she put it in the best words. Like, she just managed to capture how I feel. But it's not easy to say. By them selling the house, it's like I'm saying goodbye to who I was when we left. I've said goodbye to that me, that young me. And when she said it, it was like a lock clicked in my brain, and it was like, that's it. That's exactly what it is. And that's why every time someone sells a house, which is so stupid, it feels like I'm saying goodbye to that younger version of me. And I have a terrible habit of, I don't want to say reminiscing, because it's like, I wish I could go back in time as that me. You know, just be that me and be in their body, experiencing the things I experienced. And perhaps one day in 10 years I'll be saying that about me now. I'll say I wish I could go back to that sobbing body during coronavirus back in the good old year of 2020 when everything disastrous happened. But I can literally, like, I can visualize it. It's like I'm in a, you know, in a movie scene where they have sort of the younger version and the older version, and then they sort of separate and go their own way. And of course that is good, because it means I'm growing, it means I'm learning, it means I'm living life, which is all very, very good. But for me at least, it really hurts. And there's 3 songs actually that I feel are appropriate right now. The least hard one for me right now is the When from Toadie, because I've mentioned it so many times in my videos before. But the lines, am I the only one wishing life away, which is not true. Never caught up in the moment, busy begging the past to stay. Memories painted in much brighter ink. I mean, yeah. Gotta get it in my head. I'll never be 16 again. Oh, Dodie, you're so good. And then the other 2, one is How to Return Home, and the other one's another Dodie, which I did mention in my moving video. And it's Little Room, which I'm gonna play now and sob to. And I'm also gonna play the other one and just find some lines in that other song that I really like. As I also mentioned in that moving video, this song has never failed to make me cry. So instead of packing, I've written a song. You can tell how often I've listened to this. A little girl grew up in here. She's far too grown up to live here anymore. But I'm not sure how to fly. Thank you, you'll always be my warmest place. She's far too grown up to live here. Also, I just want to clarify, I think the reason why it means so much to me is because, first of all, they've had this house for 40 odd years, but also I spent so much of my childhood in that house. And even as I was growing up, in fact, especially since we moved here, whenever we went to Holland, we went to their place because people were renting out ours. All of my memories since I moved here have been in their house, and so many of my memories as a child was in that house. Oh, and it really, really hurts. Oh, this is not gonna go well. It's all the same except the girl in the hallway, where she's been and who she will ripen into. So that line, where she's been and who she will ripen into, that shouldn't hurt, right? Like, that should be just a nice, pretty line. And positive about the future and where she's been and where she will go. And yet it rips my heart. I think it's just because it is that thing of needing to accept that time is a thing and moves forward, doesn't move back, and you'll never be your younger self again. Cool. Now on to the next line, which also breaks my heart. It started with your childhood's on. The other side of us, sprawling divide. It's too Your childhood's on the other side of sprawling divide, too wide. When I hear this lyric, it is so visual in my mind. It's almost silly, actually. I see Holland, I see Australia, and I see a big equator line through the middle, and the big divide between those 2 countries, and that's... I'm almost lucky in a way that I have such a clear divide about, like, childhood and non-childhood. This next line is so hard. I mean, it should be pretty self-explanatory why. The house is passing with an alien heartbeat, as in, it's no longer ours. And even if we go back, it won't be the same. And I noticed that when we sold our house in Holland, because I did get a chance to visit and go back, because the owner knew my grandparents and they let me come in just to sort of, I guess, as a goodbye. And it literally was that. The house is pulsing with an alien heartbeat. It was still ours, but it wasn't. Oh, this is fun. I should do this more often. It's calling you to be the girl that you were way back then. Again, it's calling you to be the girl that you were way back then again. I mean, it doesn't even need an explanation. How to grow up. That whole section gets me every single time. I mean, this whole song does, but that song. And how to survive, there's no written guidelines. How to go back, how to show up and unpack. That line, specifically that line at the moment at least, to me means going back to Holland, but not to their house. And then into how to show up, how to grow up. Why can't I grow up? Teach me your skills. You still share a name, but you're not the same. Oh boy, you still share a name, but you're not the same. Again, it just comes back to the younger me vs older me. We still share a name, but we're not the same. And I'm not her, and I never will be again. And the great news is, the more time I spend crying about it, the more time I'm missing being me in the now. And then in 10 years' time, I'll look back and say, Raquel, why did you waste all that time crying? That's a fun little loop. Your bare feet sliding on the old wooden floorboards, home just as you left it, but still you're shaking. So that was fun, and that was nearly half an hour of filming, so I'm gonna have to spend a long time editing it. But the good news is a lot of it is just me sobbing and blowing my nose and trying to breathe so I can actually speak. One of the things I'm finding really hard with this though is I don't mind having a half-hour crying session like this. Like, I really don't, because it's part of life, I guess. But there are times when I want it and times when I don't. And there are times when my brain, like, just feeds me one line. Whether that's a song lyric, or think about Holland, or your grandparents are moving, or they're getting rid of lots of stuff, or whatever. And it's like a ringing in my head, and I need to stop it before I go into a loop of thoughts about it and have a half-hour crying session when I don't want it. And that's why I filmed this now. I was gonna, like I said, I was gonna do my June Jubilation video first. I could just hear it going round and round and round, and I knew if I didn't start speaking about it, it would just be that horrible feeling. Which I still have, but now at least I've sort of made room for it, and I'm okay with having it. I don't want to be filming my June video with that sort of in the back of my head lingering there. So there you have it. I don't know if this video is ever going to go up, and if it is, it'll probably be many years from now, like I said at the start of this video. But I think I just wanted to have it on record, because I know, I don't know, I want to have some sort of recognition of this happening in my life at the moment, despite not currently talking about it on my channel. Because as I've mentioned before, this YouTube thing for me is a bit like a diary, I guess. And it's just a way of seeing what I was up to, like once I get to the future, being able to look back and say, oh, this is what I was doing during quarantine. And I want to have this, that's why I set the date at the start of this video. I want to be able to say, amidst all of that, my grandparents also sold their house and I was not happy about it. Which is so mean of me. I should be happy because they're happy. They're so happy. And that's another really bad part, because I just wish I could be happy for them. And I really want to be, because I can see that they are delighted about it. And I wish I could give them that support and love and energy. But every time it gets brought up, I sort of just retract into myself, because I can't speak about it without this. The joys of being me. Okay, goodbye.